Dynamite Download.
Buddy. Welcome back to Dynamite Download. You got your host Crayfish here with our guys SPD and Zepp on the West Coast holding it down. This was an awesome episode of Dynamite. SPD, let's get those match results up real quick so we can see all the stuff that happened this week. As everybody knows, this was the culmination of the 8-man world title tournament, and we got to see a battle between Hangman Adam Page and Wardlow. I was repping the Cleveland for my man Wardlow tonight, but he did go down to the drunken millennial cowboy. Ultimately, then we did see Eddie Kingston have a competitive match against Matt Sydal. Cody and Orange Cassidy went head-to-head again for the TNT world title in a lumberjack match this week. And the Lumberjacks definitely did play a role. We'll get more into that later on as we get into the details of that matchup. Serena Deeb, the newly crowned NWA Women's Champion, defended her title against Leila Hirsch. Shawn Spears had a very quick knockout victory against VSK. And then Kenny Omega went head-to-head with Pentagon, who was the replacement, Penta El Zero M, who was the replacement for his little brother, Ray Phoenix, in this week's main event. Really, the focal points of this show are going to be sandwiched, right? We had the beginning of the show, starts off with Hangman and Wardlow, and the end of the show with Kenny Omega and Penta. And really, those were the two matches that were pulling everybody in this week. Before we even get into that first matchup, we were introduced to a sort of a segue, a backstage segment between MJF and Wardlow. Really, it was focused on trying to get Wardlow's thoughts going into his matchup, and we got to see MJF sort of take the shine away from him. What were your thoughts on that, SPD? I know that MJF always is entertaining when he's on the mic, but what were your thoughts as far as what actually transpired backstage during that segment?
Yeah, it was interesting. You know, it had some highs and lows to me for sure because I loved Sammy coming in, and he definitely cut some good promo right there, and how MJF was like, "You look like you sell Adderall to teenagers." It was a laugh out loud moment for sure. And what I really liked, as they're still planting those seeds and watering them, is the impending Wardlow turn on MJF, which I think that is definitely going to be a moneymaker feud, in my opinion. Hopefully sooner than later, because we are, here at Dynamite Download are huge Wardlow fans. We'll get into that later. But one thing that did bother me about the segment was that the overbearing fake crowd noise. If you guys noticed that, I don't know, it just kept feeling like we're watching we're playing like Madden N64 or something with the crowd noise that was just like blasting, kind of overshadowing it. Like, I don't think it was needed. You don't need this crowd noise for a backstage promo. But overall, that's just being a little nitpicky for me. But it was just a great way to start the show, in my opinion, and it plants even more seeds leading forward.
Zepp, what were your thoughts on it? Ultimately, you like all three of these guys that were highlighted, right? You're a Sammy guy, you're a Wardlow guy, you're an MJF guy. I think all of us can agree. Each of them shows potential in their own way. What was your thoughts on Sammy interrupting the actual MJF segment and getting into it with MJF?
Yeah, so I've always found Sammy actually to be a pretty rough promo, so it's good to see him now mixing it up with one of the best guys, right? Because that's only going to make him better, I think. Yep. So it didn't fall flat. I found Sammy somewhat believable, and I rarely do. So I think that's more of a testament. When you have a good dance partner, even in a promo, it might help you. So he's doing that with MJF, and I'm like, okay, Sammy looked better than when he's doing a solo one trying to say something about Matt Hardy, which is okay, this was a live segment. Mm-hmm. So I just thought that was noteworthy.
I agree. I'm a big Sammy fan. I think that the guy has star potential, but even the biggest Sammy fan has to admit that, his in-ring work is ahead of his promo work, and everybody's different, right? Some people, their character work, their promo work shines, and they still need some work to do in the ring. But I felt like Sammy held his own, and he certainly, I thought he certainly was able to roll with MJF's one-liners that went at him. And I thought the most interesting part really was the MJF Wardlow seeds that were planted there. I think that we've already kind of seen. What's great is, MJF's role as sort of a master manipulator is starting to bleed into other relationships on the show. And that's what I think that AEW does a really great job with. Again, just emphasizing that, this is a universe. This is a collective. They're all interacting with each other. So, the MJF, if you follow them on Twitter, MJF has been messing with Sammy, with the inner circle. There's been all this, the little buddy line has been one of MJF's favorite go-tos. And certainly like the jacket playing a role was a nice touch. But I thought it was really great seeing MJF kind of also go highlight back to after he lost the title to Cody. After he lost the title matchup against Moxley, where Wardlow had thrown in the ring and kind of cost him that match. If you guys remember at Dynamite afterwards, MJF made it very clear Wardlow's his checks are signed by MJF. Essentially, MJF reiterated that Wardlow is his property, and no matter what, nobody likes hearing that, right? Nobody
takes so much.
And it takes some cojones to tell a big hoss like that.
You always tell us that because, you're the host of the podcast or whatever. You always tell us that, and I hate it every time you say it, so I can feel
know your role, right? Get in line. Let's segue into the actual match itself because it did feature Wardlow, and really it was all about, was he going to be able to overtake Hangman Page? After last week's showing against Jungle Boy, I thought all of us were on board. SPD, he was your top performer of the night last week. What was your take on the actual match itself? How did it play out? Was the end result what you anticipated? And how did, as far as us getting there, what were your thoughts on the actual back and forth between the two?
Yeah, I thought it was a great way to start the show, and just week in and week out, this second week we're seeing Wardlow on TV. He looked even stronger, I think, this week than last week, even though he essentially squashed Jungle Boy to an extent. I thought he had me convinced that he was going to beat Hangman, and I was ready for the push. Obviously, the writing in the sand was Hangman versus Omega for the championship, but Wardlow was awesome. That spear through the barricade was like stand up going, wow, like wanted me to scream, holy shit. And then Wardlow with the shoot, off the top rope, like what the heck? Like he's showing us more and more moves and versatility that he has than we've seen. And, he's getting more ring time and he's getting essentially more camera time. So he's able to showcase, and the announce team was definitely hyping him up, being like, he is untouched talent. He's new and all this. And I was a little, his loss doesn't hurt him. That's the thing.
And I think that the way that he lost too, right? Yeah. I think it's important to note, like, and it's good on you to kind of bring up what the commentators said, right? Is, after Wardlow hit that F10 and it didn't put Hangman away, it kind of threw the big man off, right? That move has put everybody, I mean, as we talked about last week, he was 9-0, right? Going into last year. So like, Wardlow's used to the F10 being a finish. It didn't put Hangman away. So then it pushed him kind of out of his element. He didn't know what to do, right? And that speaks to his inexperience. He ended up going to the top rope, and that ended up being his downfall. But the best part, like you said, was it wasn't just one buckshot lariat. One buckshot lariat got Wardlow stumbling.
Yeah.
Right? It didn't take him down. It took two buckshot lariats, which has proven to be one of the more effective finishers in all of AEW. Certainly one of my favorite finishers is two. I think Hangman executes it amazingly. It's such a great finish. But it took two to take Wardlow down. So I think to further comment on what you're saying there, SPD, it served its purpose. It certainly cemented Hangman as a legitimate world title contender, beating a guy like Wardlow. Yep. But in the way that Wardlow went down, he didn't lose any prestige. And I think that they did a great job of protecting the big man there. So I got to say, from your perspective coming out of that, you're going to take that as an elite or a delete, bud?
Oh, absolutely. 10 out of 10 elite. It was an entertaining match from the start to finish. There was barely little to no downtime in the match. It was everything you wanted out of a show opener. It could have been a main event of a Dynamite too. So definitely elite for me.
What about you, Zepp?
Yeah, this one was interesting because I've changed my mind on it a few times. So the match I thought was for sure an elite. And I think what happened was I really got behind Wardlow from his last performance, and I wasn't willing to accept him losing. But the reality is, the reality is, right, Omega Hangman is amazing. Like, that's going to be awesome. people can say that that's like predictable. It wasn't. I actually didn't know once these matches were happening who the hell was going to win. So it made it look predictable at the beginning, but then like as soon as the matches started, all bets were off. So I'm giving it an elite. I think the only part of me that wanted to say delete was just seeing War Dog actually lose. But Sean, to your point, he doesn't lose like a ton of steam here, right? My only argument would be like, why have him in the tournament? Did you have to have him in this tournament if he was going to take an L? I would argue no, and like you could have him. That'd be my only argument. But it was a sweet match, no doubt.
Yeah, and I think like AEW did a really nice job of highlighting Wardlow's journey on social media. If you guys haven't checked out that video, they really do a behind the scenes of Wardlow and how he's always, he basically says you never have to prepare, you never have to train or prepare if you approach that every single day that is going to be your biggest match of your life, right? So I think Wardlow getting an opportunity in a tournament like this, when in reality most of his matches have been on Dark. So we haven't really gotten a chance to see him outside of MJF's shadow. I thought getting him in the tournament alone, having such an emphatic win against Jungle Boy, and really like we talked about last week, that matchup of styles really showcased his strength. And then really pitting him as a peer to Hangman, who has been presented as one of your company's biggest stars. I think it did Wardlow really well. I think that even though as a Cleveland boy, my heart was broken watching Ward Dog go down, I too really wanted him to win because it would have been a great surprise. Like you guys talked about going into the tournament, we kind of thought as fans this was going to lead to Omega versus Hangman. It was too perfect for it not to. So I'm not mad about that, right? But the mere fact that maybe that could have happened where Wardlow could have got the upset would have been certainly interesting, and no one would have complained about Wardlow being in the main event of the finals against Kenny Omega. No one would have complained about any four of these competitors actually being in that matchup because they were all presented incredibly well. They all held their own tonight. I have to say it's an elite for me. I thought that, Sean, you really emphasized it in what you were saying there too, is it felt like as soon as the bell rang, Hangman went running at Wardlow and attacked him, and they didn't stop. It was just these two beat the hell out of each other. And that was truly they had a way of making it feel like neither one of them could lose. And that highlights what Zepp was talking about. We all kind of knew Hangman was the favorite, right? But the fact that these two were going at each other like they did, as a fan, you lost that. You got immersed into the matchup, and you really did not know which way it was going to go. It was an awesome, hard-hitting affair. Really delivered. Can't complain about that one at all.
I agree. I got a bold prediction.
Let's hear it.
So my bold prediction is, not to jump ahead, but next week you're going to get even more seeds planting of a Wardlow turn on MJF, and then he's going to cost him the match to join the Inner Circle. That way, MJF losing is not necessarily a bad notch. It just sets up another feud, and then it gives more momentum to Jericho being more of the top guy.
That's interesting. We'll talk more about that when we get into the
bold prediction.
Town Hall. But that is quite a bold prediction because I feel like, especially with the way that the card played out tonight, a lot of the stuff that you talk about as being written in pen, as far as written in the sand, that type of thing, things that are we almost consider as like just a matter of time for happening. Mm-hmm. I think that like for me, MJF and Jericho, that matchup is presented in a way that it's almost too good for MJF to be a part of it. I'm excited to see what's going to happen in that. That said, really the main event, even though it gets lost because of the world title tournament, the main event of Full Gear is not going to be Kenny Omega versus Hangman Page. The main event of Full Gear is going to be Eddie Kingston versus Jon Moxley for the world title in an I Quit match. And, guys, for me, when you look at Moxley and Eddie Kingston, now I understand their in-ring work might not be for everybody, right? Moxley has his critics, as does Kingston, right? But when it comes to just delivering a promo and getting the fans engaged, AEW has hit the jackpot with this feud. I mean, I am totally pulled in. Moxley had a great little promo, far more direct than last week, a lot quicker. But he made the point known that this guy, that I'm the champion for a reason. And I thought that Moxley did an excellent job of really reminding us as fans that although Kingston does a great job at talking a big game, Moxley has time and again put down plenty of guys who talk a big game. And I thought from a champion's perspective, given all the love and all the hype that Kingston has rightfully gotten over the last few weeks, Moxley succinctly kind of reminded the whole fan base that, I'm the champion, and there's been plenty of big men that have talked big games, and I put them all down. So I thought that was a really great promo by him. That said, Kingston and his crew came out next, and Kingston was accompanied to the ring by Butcher, the Blade, and the Bunny. He ultimately had a match against Matt Sydal. Before we get into the match, guys, what are you expecting out of Eddie Kingston going forward here? I know that we only have one more week till Full Gear. Do you feel like the match itself, SPD, against Matt Sydal, as Kingston said, he wanted Moxley to watch at home. Do you think that the message sent by Kingston was emphatic? Did he put Sydal down and sort of the post-match beatdown? What were your takeaways from that?
I'm like a loss for words with Eddie Kingston because since his debut, he has been pure dynamite, and he knows how to sell a match. Oh my gosh. So when was it? Like a month ago when he last minute filled in for, when he first fought Mox, like there was no build to that match, but even with this, like this was, not necessarily, it wasn't a jobber. Sydal is an awesome in-ring performer, but then he made the match matter, and then the post-match, it made it mattered even more. So he's just incredible at building matches.
Right. I got to say, SPD, that's a great point by you because, going into this match, it could have just been like one of those like, oh, okay, Eddie Kingston against some random guy. We all kind of know Kingston's got a world title match. He's more than likely going to win this one, right? But it was really great promo work by Kingston before the match to kind of remind all of us, this is a guy who was the Joker who kind of tried to come in and steal the spotlight at the Battle Royal, right? And it really it gave Eddie Kingston a character motivation to want to beat down Sydal, and that's all we want, right? That's all we want as a fan is to want these guys to care, to be able to follow like where they're coming from, to get inside the character's mind. And Kingston does that like nobody's business. He puts his mind out there for the fans to really soak up. It's starting to sound like anything that Eddie Kingston is associated with is going to be an elite out of this crew. SPD, is this one getting an elite from you?
So the match itself, overall, I mean, I would rate it like a junior elite if I could. but
okay, that's not a thing.
That's not a thing
I'm not
yet,
letting that slide.
I'm not. I wasn't wowed by the match. Kingston's chops are brutal, and then Sydal, I mean, it's no secret he's amazing, high flyer, great, submission, and he's a great in-ring performer. I would love to see more of him, as we've seen him on Dark a few times. But the match itself wasn't amazing, but the overall pre-match, post-match storyline, hook, line, and sinker, and on the edge, and where's Moxley? Where's the champ at? He's at home. He's at home. He's at home. He said that stuff before, but still it hits home, and it makes you want to root for this bad guy, essentially. Like, he's here performing. Where's the champ? So to me, it's an elite.
All right.
And for that.
Yeah. I mean, Eddie Kingston for me has so much goodwill built up and credit. He could literally go out there and take a nap for the 20-minute time limit, and I'd be like, this is awesome. I'm so into this guy. It's like next level. I don't care if people say he's not a great in-ring performer. I don't care. I don't even care. He can go. He gives hard noogies, and I'm way more into it than some guys doing triple backflips, right? And that just tells you how good of a storyteller he is. And then, Mike, piggybacking off what you said his character, getting inside his head, right?
Yeah.
my favorite part about that point you made is he did it even with the cameraman trying to get in the ring. He always is like he's against everybody, and he thinks he's like he's like a junkyard dog, like protecting his like yard, and I love that. And he never wavers. It's like that everywhere. It's like family, protect my zone. You're the enemy. I don't know. He reminds me of like Mike Tyson or like combat sports guys like the Diaz brothers, where they find a way to like always let you know why they hate their opponent, and sometimes it's like made up, which is interesting.
Zepp, I'm not gonna I mean, you nailed it, man. I mean, I really think that like one of the things that goes a long way is that he lives and breathes the character. You feel like it's authentic, you feel like it's genuine, and it's coming from a place of you can start to see where this resentment and this animosity and this bitterness, it's starting to take hold of him as a person, right? Like he's like you said, he's got that junkyard dog mentality where he's had to fight his whole life just to get here, right? And so he ain't gonna let anybody take away from his shine. Nobody's gonna get interfere with what he and his family have fought for. I think his character work has been second to none. It's not surprising that he's gaining such a groundswell support on social media. There's so many fans that are starting to come around to, wow, this guy really knows what he's doing. And what I like about him, and it's something that you mentioned, Zepp, I'm just going to emphasize it again for the fans. What I love about this guy is he's not the most impressive in-ring performer. He doesn't have the body of a Wardlow. He doesn't have the acrobatics of a Ray Phoenix. This is a dude who's just, you could see like walking out of like a bar, walking out of a bar and just getting into a fight with somebody, right? He's just like, somebody looks at him the wrong way or steps on his shoes and he's going to want to beat the shit out of him, right? He's just got that like that nasty edge to him, but he's a grimy, like even just like his moves in the ring, he's not doing these like crazy over the top feats of strength or anything like that. It's just a fight. And sometimes that's all we want to see. Sometimes a punch, or like you said, a headlock is more emphatic than a backflip, a moonsault off the top rope, right? So, no, I think that the only thing that I will say to counter you guys was I was surprised at how much offense Matt Sydal got in this match. I understand he's been established. He's been a well-known performer around the world. A lot of fans are familiar with him. Yeah. But I was surprised with how hard of a time he gave Kingston in the ring, given we're only like a week and a half away from Full Gear. I was a little taken aback by that. That said, it wasn't enough for me to give it a delete. I think that Kingston's ring work and mic work was phenomenal. The post-match beatdown of Sydal, where he locked in the bulldog choke and kind of sent that message that – because I was kind of taking it like, before the match, Kingston was saying – this is going to be a message to Moxley. I hope Moxley's watching at home. And I'm like, man, he's struggling to put Sydal away. This is not that big of a message to him. But that post-match beatdown and the chokeout that he gave him certainly did leave a lasting impression on me. And I have a feeling that's what people are going to be talking about going out of this match.
Real quick, so now we're on the topic. In a quick 30 seconds or less, who wins and why?
Oh, geez.
We'll dig on it more deeper later, but who wins and why off your cuff?
We're a week and a half away, so I know we'll talk more about it after next week's Dynamite, the go-home show.
The face.
That said, man, I've been predicting Moxley to lose the title for a few matches now, right? I thought that MJF was going to beat him. I certainly was all in on Lance Archer beating him. So I guess I might as well continue to bet against him, and eventually I'll be right. So I'm going to say Kingston wins this one. It's just hard to picture him quitting. So I'll leave it succinctly. We'll talk more about it next week, but I'm going to go with Kingston.
I got Mox. I think Mox and Omega are going to have a repeat of some past storylines. That's what I envision. But
yeah, I mean, obviously my heart wants Kingston for many reasons, because we're just rooting for this guy who is, essentially dumps to pay-per-view main event, which is an amazing story alone. But I can't see Mox losing, and I would prefer Kenny and Mox. That's more of the PR and type of TNT type of headliners. You know, Eddie Kingston is not your.
Got star. That's got star power for sure.
Which is the only thing hurting Kingston, but clearly AEW loves him and the AEW fans love him. And here at Dynamite Download, we love him.
For sure.
But it's going to be a great fight, great fought battle for sure.
Yeah, no, that's a good point by you guys. And I think that AEW has not got enough credit for their long-term storytelling. One of the things that has been a long-term storytelling before AEW was even recognized as a promotion, even before AEW was even a thing, was the dream match between my guys FTR and the Young Bucks. And we were given a backstage promo between FTR, who were off-site with their boy Tully, and the Young Bucks, who were with Excalibur, who was really hosting this interview segment. For you guys, before I get too much into this, my take on on FTR. You know my take on tag team wrestling. I think that what AEW does best is tag team wrestling. So I'm really geeked about this matchup. What was your takeaway, real quick, on this one, SPD? What were your thoughts on the actual segment itself, especially with the stipulation that ended up coming up out of this interview?
So I know you are the biggest FTR fan out of us three in your whole state or the U.S., but hearing you and talking to you is getting me to grow as an FTR fan. You know, I'm seeing the light. I am seeing
awesome.
I'm seeing how smart they are on the mic, how smart they are in the ring. I am appreciating it. That being said, these 4 wrestlers are probably 4 of the best in the world right now. And to see this marquee match, I wish there was a little bit more build, honestly, because I mean, it was hinting, but this is going to be, it could be the match of the night. I mean, Full Gear is stacked. We'll talk about it later.
It is.
But
it's such a stacked card.
I don't like the whole stipulation thing. I don't like those things. You know, what is with the executive vice presidents doing their stipulations? Cody, now the Young Bucks. What's Kenny going to do next? Like,
agreed.
So I think it's unnecessary. The match itself is going to be a home run if all goes well, in my opinion. So I don't agree with the stipulation, but the promo was short and sweet and powerful.
Yeah, I actually felt bad. I couldn't get into the storyline along the way, and then Matt Jackson got me. Like he sucked me in with his promo, which I never usually get sucked in by, like his promos.
Yeah.
Or even though they're pretty limited when they happen, I just I don't know. I consider them like middle of the road with like the promo delivery. And now I'm excited about the match, but all along the way I wasn't. So I'm not sure if that's because I'm not just like a huge FTR fan. Or maybe it was the Young Bucks, that heel turn was like kind of a little bit confusing. But long story short, now I'm pumped for it. So it ended up getting me by the end of it. And I know that people have been looking forward to this one for a really long time. So this card is crazy, man. It's got everything.
Oof. It's going to be like a pretty incredible show, guys. I mean, it is really shaping up to be that way. I felt like FTR did a great job as the heel champions. I think, them kind of continuing to almost like have that chip on their shoulder. I know that they feel like they're really trying to represent a dying breed of wrestling. And that's something that I can appreciate. This really is a matchup between 2 very different styles and different approaches to the business. So I love the build up, the natural, clash of personalities and styles. I love that between these 2 teams. But I do feel like the stipulation, and I'll talk more about it in my column, but I do feel like the stipulation was unnecessary. And I don't know if it adds more intrigue or not. I guess when you have that much on the line, it certainly is going to make us curious, I guess, a little bit more as to what's going to happen. But having the Bucks potentially never challenge for a tag title shot if they lose this one, at least with Cody, he has the fallback of the TNT title, right? And he's proven to be an incredible champion. But if the Bucks don't win this one, that's a big loss to the tag division. And so I even as an FTR fanboy, I started to get a little concerned that this is going to put the writing on the wall that Young Bucks are going to win this one. It's interesting. I just don't think it was necessary, especially for the first matchup between the two. I think that, if FTR would have beat the Young Bucks in their first match against each other, and then the Young Bucks kind of were out of frustration saying, like, if we get one more rematch, one more match, then they put that on the line, it would have kind of added greater stakes to it. It does kind of feel like it's out of nowhere. So I don't know. I mean, I thought that obviously I felt like this is going to be an exciting match, but I do think that is something that kind of threw me off a little bit.
It's cool. I think real quick, it's cool that the executive vice presidents are like selfless enough to like take themselves out of these spots. But I just hope like Tony or some guys backstage shake them and like remind them, like, you guys are the mega stars too. Like, you were the mega stars that we started with. We're only a year into this thing. You don't have to go back burner at all yet. Like, we're just getting started, boys.
It almost hurts. It would hurt AEW quite a bit if they don't lean in to the star power that helped create this organization.
For sure. And I think back to the Cody thing, it didn't hurt him necessarily because he's the TNT. I think it works better for him being the face of the network and pushing MJF even more. So that worked. FTR doesn't need a push. They can go through every single tag team and beat them, and that'd be okay, because they well deserved, because they have the straps. And I think this just hurts Young Bucks putting the stipulation on. I don't agree with it.
Yeah. Did the Cody rule add any, like, so we can look back now and kind of assess this. Did Cody not being able to challenge for the world title add things throughout year one? It was interesting, but like going forward, it kind of, I don't know that I like that exists out there. This like blocker,
right?
That's not doing anything for me as like a fan. Like, oh, he just can't do that ever. I don't know that feels like a win in any way.
He'll get pretty platinum eventually, I think. Some stipulation where he gets it back.
It does rob us of some amazing potential matchups, right? Where you do wonder if Cody got a shot, because Cody's matches are always incredibly epic storytelling wise and physicality wise. He's just phenomenal. So yeah, it does make you wonder a little bit about that, Zepp. I think that there have been a lot of storylines that came out of that. MJF kind of becoming the heel that he is today. That was really sparked out of him, basically throwing in the towel for Cody, and then eventually, full-fledged turning on him. And again, that's an example of the long-term storytelling that AEW has done too. I get where you're coming from. I do think that there's a lot to be said for what AEW is trying to accomplish as far as building new stars. But as you guys said, I do think that they need to maybe recognize the only reason why this organization is where it is today is because of people like the Young Bucks, and they shouldn't be running from that. They should recognize that those guys are stars, and we want to see them, right? We want to see them perform. We want to see them in good positions. So that said, you just kind of mentioned we talked a little bit about the Cody dynamic and really MJF's role in all that. Cody will never get a title shot because of him his buddy MJF throwing in the towel. MJF was the feature of the next segment in the show tonight, guys. It was the town hall of Jericho, MJF, the Inner Circle. It really included some surprise guests. The actual format of tonight's segment was different than what I was expecting. What was your takeaway from this one? I know that like we as an organization here on Dynamite Download, we love the Inner Circle. We love MJF. It's hard not to find these guys entertaining. They're hilarious in the ring. Whenever they cut promos, they're always gold. How did this one go down for you, SPD? Were you eating the popcorn and getting all into it, or what?
I had very high expectations because I think MJF and Jericho are gold in money and they could do no wrong. But this segment kind of fell flat for me, honestly. I'm all for, including other people. And it just was, Peter Avalon and Luchasaurus and Reba Rebel or I don't know. Like it just fell flat, the format. It just seemed kind of, the original town hall they had, it was great because there was more interaction with Jericho and Orange Cassidy. This was just pretty. They weren't necessarily like the main spotlight in my. I don't think. It was kind of a miss for me, honestly. Sadly.
I would have never guessed that. Just
I know.
given these two guys are really at the top of your AEW fanboy list.
I
Zep,
know.
do you agree with that? Do you are you on the same page as SPD on this one, or do you have a different take?
I'm giving it an elite, but I had a very different experience with it. So like for me, you got Jericho and MJF, who are the best, like maybe top 5 ever on the microphone. But in this segment in particular, I found Britt Baker, Reba, Luchasaurus, Eric Bischoff, all these people like more entertaining, which I think Sean's kind of alluding to, which is weird because when you had the ballroom dancing of last week, which was just 2 guys for 4 minutes, that was like epic. All of a sudden you have all these other players involved in the storyline that weren't necessarily involved in last week's. So I think it's a little confusing. Also, Ortiz was great on the horn tonight, which I think caught me off guard too. So all these things, it was kind of confusing. They also didn't lean into the ballroom dancing angle much at all, which I expected. I expected them to I thought Inner Circle was going to hold Jericho to the fire. Like, why are you dancing with this dude last week? Like, what's going on? And it didn't happen. So
that's a good point.
I was entertained, maybe just because of like the surprises I thought were cool. And Bischoff showing up more and more is a whole other conversation that I think is interesting. I like seeing that dude on TNT again. So
yeah. I would agree with you on that, Zepp. I felt like the like sort of the guest appearances were all entertaining. I thought that Reba and Britt Baker were phenomenal as always. I'm a big fan of Baker. And I thought the questions were actually all good. I mean, to me, we've seen a lot of MJF and Jericho interacting, right? We've seen plenty of that. To me, I think that their strengths, one of the things I've always loved about Jericho is his ability to sort of play off of other people. His comedic timing is usually sort of feels like it's off the cuff or in the moment, right? It's a lot of like improv. Where he's kind of put into situations where he has to react to. And I think MJF's one of his greatest strengths is when things aren't going well, he always has an ability to kind of make little comments or keep things rolling so things don't fall flat. I thought this segment was great, personally. I was a big fan of it. I thought it was actually better than last week. I was more entertained by this than the dancing segment. Not looking back on it. I just think that it talked more about the character motivations. We've really been teasing what's going to happen with MJF joining the Inner Circle for quite some time, and there was a lot that happened here where we got to see, what his motivations are. I thought there was some comedy that was involved. I thought that the chart that MJF threw up there was pretty funny. I thought that like the actual content that we talked about it showed. We were able to see a little bit more character motivation. We got to see MJF admit that he's not the best team player, that he has some things that he can learn from. I think that he also was put in a situation where he's finally kind of was put on his heels a little bit. And we get to see a different side of MJF. I thought like Ortiz on the mic again, talking about a different side of somebody. Ortiz has always kind of been the comedic foil of the Inner Circle. And for us to finally see Ortiz like show some fire and really get pissed off and basically say like Sammy and I are gonna put you down next week. That I was geeked out about that. Like I love the Inner Circle, and I think that the more opportunity for those types of guys to shine outside of Jericho's shadow, the better. So I was a fan of it. I thought that they did a really great job. But speaking of groups and promos, this wasn't the only one of the night where we got to see a group kind of show what their motivations are. MJF talked about if he were to join the Inner Circle, they would get a lot more green and a lot more gold. And really that's what Taz highlighted as his group's motivation, right? Like his guys are there to make money, beat people up, and win championships. He had a backstage promo where he was joined by Ricky Starks and Brian Cage. As always, Taz finds a way to be very even with the small amount of time. He always finds a way to be direct and really spit like truth. I don't think that this one necessarily gave us anything new that we didn't see before. That said, where do you guys think Will Hobbs is going to go? And if you were Will, like really, if you were booking this, should Will Hobbs join Team Taz, or does he continue to kind of be the good guy underdog and try to make a name for himself on his own?
He's too much of a babyface star, in my opinion. I mean, he's got the good story. The announcers are behind him. This feud, I felt like, had a lot of momentum to start, and it just slowly fizzling out. We're running into the whole 2 hours of Dynamite a week issue again. This could be a good feud. Ricky Starks, Brian Cage, Will Hobbs, Darby Allin. I mean, we saw on Dark last night that Will Hobbs came out to Darby Allin's rescue because the whole Ricky Starks, Brian Cage attack again. So it's hinting at a tag match or feud with that. And I don't think Team Taz needs anyone else right now. If they do recruit or get anyone else, they need to get more TV time. They need to be an inner circle type. They need to be a Dark Order. Those guys, those stables are getting TV time every single week. And you can't just be this part-time posse.
Yeah, I agree with Sean. Like, I think he leans more towards babyface naturally, and that's probably what people want overall. But if that stable gets more TV time, I think having them be this like group of behemoths, and then Starks is kind of that accent piece with Taz as like the badass that used to be and like had been there before as the leader and the mouthpiece. That's cool. I can buy into that. And you can keep layering on big men, and all of a sudden that becomes like pretty scary, right? It's not just like Cage, Hobbs, one more big guy, and then like that's crazy. Like it's so I'm good with it.
To be reckoned with. Absolutely.
They have options. They have options with this one.
No, I think that SPD, you guys did really highlight, and I didn't think about it too much earlier, but Hobbs' natural story is his story is very much like you want him to be a babyface. You want to root for a guy who's such a natural underdog who's kind of had the rough road in life that he's had. You want to root for somebody like that. So I do understand that we would be kind of undercutting. We'd be undercutting a baby face that that sort of is. It's so hard to establish guys that the crowd wants to get behind. And you'd be undercutting a guy who would be a natural baby face. And then for me, if I'm booking it, I would say like, I don't know, man. If you're Hobbs, right, do you continue to be this like good guy underdog who gets matches on Dark and tries to establish some respect for yourself, like always trying to climb up, or do you join up with some other guys who are already well-established stars who are already on Dynamite? Just naturally, like you put Will Hobbs in that group, they're going to get more TV time. He's going to rather than asking for respect or asking for people to root for you or asking for opportunity, do you take it? Do you just go out there, you look at it and say, I'm getting an opportunity of a lifetime, and do I finally just go out there and take it and really have no apologies to anybody? And that's what Taz's mentality is, right? Fuck the world. Don't worry about what other people think. Don't worry about the people who are going to judge you. Go out there and take what's yours. Be a man and do your thing. So I think that Will Hobbs certainly has a lot on his plate right now. Dang. I think that the guy is a monster, and if you put him against Brian Cage, you're just going to want to see those two go head-to-head and beat the hell out of each other. But I, as a fan, I want to hear what's going to happen. I certainly think that his actions have shown that he's standing behind Darby, and he's a good guy, but I don't know. I think that there's some reason to join. I think that there's some things there that would benefit his career if he were to take that. So
it's a very interesting take for sure. And I like that the Will Hobbs is, this big baby face that he's like looking out for Darby as like a little brother, essentially, just based on size difference. Mm-hmm. But last night on Dark, Hobbs took down a bigger guy. It wasn't a squash match.
No.
And so that was impressive. And he just needs to keep getting those reps on Dark, and I'm all for him getting TV time. And I think we have someone to build here. It's just another one of those, another AEW pure talents that we're never first time seeing on TV, and good things are coming. And it can go both ways.
Who did he take down last night on Dark?
It was just
a big guy.
It was a big guy.
I gotta check that out.
Yeah,
It was good.
It was
a good
it was
match.
an impressive display of athleticism
Nick
too from Hobbs.
Carmado.
Not the big guy, not Skip Sheffield, right?
Not him yet.
No, his name is
Hopefully
Nick
one day.
Cormado.
Got it.
But he looks like he's like the guy from Lost.
One of the things that I want to get into, and this is going to segue really into the next match because we got to see Cody go against Orange Cassidy. But we talked about, right, Will Hobbs, Darby Allin against Brian Cage and Ricky Starks. And that feud does not seem like it's dying anytime soon. I know it's been sort of a slow burn over the last few weeks and months. But it doesn't seem like that's going away. Obviously, Ricky Starks is not he's not done with Darby yet.
Clearly, yeah.
Team Taz is not done with Will Hobbs. But I find that I find this interesting, right? Because Darby has a title shot against Cody at Full Gear. And I feel like, truthfully, guys, and we got to see him watching in the stands during the matchup between Cody and Orange Cassidy, but all the burn has been between Darby and Team Taz. We really haven't seen Darby interacting with Cody at all. I know that they have a history where Darby hasn't really been able to get over the hump of beating Cody. But knowing that this is going to be the title match at Full Gear, I know that it was controversial that Orange Cassidy got he got another match against Cody. Do you feel like the build for Darby versus Cody at Full Gear has kind of got muddied down a little bit with the involvement of Team Taz and Cody?
I have an unpopular opinion right here. So,
sure. Big time.
My unpopular opinion is that Darby is losing steam overall. We're all fans of Darby. I think he's losing steam. Back to Dark. He struggled versus a jobber essentially. He was getting still ragdolled. He's got some awesome, unique, one-of-a-kind moves, one-of-a-kind look. We are all big fans of him. But watching that match last night on Dark, I was like, he's getting ragdolled by a jobber. Granted, he's not a big guy. I could ragdoll him, and all of us could.
You throwing out an open challenge against Darby?
Oh, dude, the coffin's going to get dropped right on your head, brother.
Dude, the coffin drop is a brutal finisher. That's got to knock the wind out of both guys. But that's another story. But it wasn't – I didn't expect him to squash because he's not a squash type of wrestler. Just based on his size, it'd be tough to do. But I was surprised at the length of the match and the amount of offense the other guy got. So I think Darby is losing a lot of steam.
There's got to be. I mean, even for Zepp. I mean, even as a Darby fan, there's no buzz around his title shot against Cody, and this could have been a huge match, right? I mean, Darby has fought Cody in the past. He's pushed Cody to the limit. He's come up short, and this could have been one of those moments where we as a fan base could have really rallied behind Darby and seen a potential, epic, memorable matchup between these two. And I just don't think – I think out of all the matches, even with Shida going against Nyla Rose, this one feels like it has so little buzz behind it, right?
Sadly. Very sadly.
I mean, if I'm at a loss for words because it seems like Taz and that whole scenario definitely was the focal point. But now if Darby doesn't win this match, it's like all the wind sucked out of his sails. But I can't really picture him winning it without a proper build. So it's like this middle area that's kind of going to feel hollow no matter what happens, I feel like, which maybe as a fan is what we feel is kind of like a bummer. However, there's a possibility that Team Taz impacts this match, right? So Cody retains. There's not many DQs, right, in AEW. This, in my opinion, is a prime opportunity to keep the strap on Cody. Darby doesn't lose clean. Him and Starks have this mega war. Then he gets another crack later when they can do it right. I don't know. I'd call DQ card on this one. That's what I personally would do. But just real quick on Darby overall. Yeah, I think there might be some injuries going on. I don't know this for certain, just a gut feeling. And I'm trying to revisit the way I look at his character. Because when you think of a skateboarder, right, they rarely land the first trick. They always, you see the highlight reel, the first trick landed, but the skateboarder always gets back up, climbs to the top, tries again. And that's kind of like how he is as the crash test dummy. So what I used to be frustrated about, I'm now trying to see as like this punk rock skateboarder who takes a million falls, but always gets back up. Like you can't break him, but like you can temporarily dismantle him, but he's going to get back up, climb to the top, and try something crazy again and again and again. So just my personal
and ultimately, how do you break somebody like that, right? You might be able to break him physically, but you'll never break his spirit. I think that's kind of a cool character trait that you pointed out that really kind of flips the script on Darby's whole story thus far in AEW. I think that's kind of interesting.
They should lean into that a little more.
And when he does hit that trick, right? When he does hit that he finally lands it, we as fans are going to be like blown away because we're so used to him falling short, right?
And the whole while he knew he was always going to land it because he was never going to stop trying until he did. They need to lean into that more.
I agree. I think that's really brilliant by you, and I hope that AEW does do that more as we go forward. I think that could really turn all this conversation about us being worried about his momentum on its head and be like, hey, Marks, you just got worked, brother. Right. You know, like that could be really interesting. That said, you did talk about a DQ and running. I think that, you know, Ricky Starks is definitely keeping his eye on Full Gear. There's no doubt. But that said, the next match, Cody versus Orange Cassidy, did have interference. There was a lumberjack stipulation. So clearly we know we were expecting some shenanigans on the outside, but it spilled into the ring and it certainly impacted the finish of the matchup. SPD, what's your take on this match? Obviously, there was some controversy around Orange Cassidy getting another title shot. I know you were worried about him losing and what that does to Cassidy. Knowing the outcome of the match, give us your insight on what your takeaways are, and give us your lead or delete on this one.
So much happened in this match, and you know, I dislike the whole picture-in-picture commercial break mid-match. You know, it's just there's no way around it. Sadly, it just loses steam to me. So overall, first things first, Cody has the best entrance in the biz, in my opinion. I just want to say that.
Great theme song.
Great theme song, great entrance, out the middle, the pyro, everything, the works, you know, hands down 10 out of 10 in my opinion. But the match itself was a great wrestling match. And the move of the night for me was the suplex onto the lumberjacks. Yeah. I was just like, wow. I mean, there was a lot of great wrestling on the card tonight. And that was an awesome, unique, never seen before move. It was just like a wow factor. I'm just thinking of if I was in one of their shoes, just how would you feel? Like, okay, we're going a suplex off the top rope onto these guys. Yeah, onto these people.
Yeah.
But the way it ended was it was fine. And honestly, the last week or 2 weeks ago when the time limit match, that was a better wrestled match, I think, because it was more focus centered. You know, you had all these other distractions on the outside, but it made sense at the end, the finish with the interference, and then another one of our Dynamite download favorites, John Silver, coming in, which, you know, I'm happy. I'm so glad to see him. He is the MVP of BTE for sure. Not to get sidetracked, but just so much happened, and I guess
this match got sidetracked in a bunch of different ways.
Yeah, it was a little sloppy and all over the place at the end. Yeah. And then like because Cody even got lost in like the works at the end, like everything that happened, like it just got kind of lost in transition. But him winning just made sense. Orange Cassidy eventually will be TNT. You know, I can definitely see him holding the strap. It'll be great when crowds come back because he is way more over with crowds. Yeah. I think the booking would have been different if we had a full sold out audience. I'm excited to see John Silver in a one-on-one versus him, but I think for some of the heavy moves and everything, I will give it an elite for that.
All right. And I know that you were concerned about, I know that you were concerned about the booking of Orange Cassidy and him, you know, him losing so many title matches in a row. They certainly did do their best to protect Cassidy in this match. I think that obviously the outside interference with Silver and Arn Anderson getting involved. Yeah. Arn Anderson throwing a nice stiff punch to his face certainly played a role too.
The coach.
So Zepp, what's your takeaway? You think that this one was an elite or delete on your standard? What do you think, man?
I got problems with this one, boys.
Yeah.
So I'll be honest. I don't know where the Chris Jericho rub went now, right? Like when Cassidy got that rub from Jericho and was winning the most of mayhem, that video seems so long ago now because he can't get this sucker no matter how many times he tries, right? And all the meanwhile, he's getting buried on other podcasts, and it's almost like this verified it in some ways that he's not that like top level guy. At least the narrative, I don't believe that to be the case. But yeah, this one, even though he didn't like lose clean, it still was for me a kind of just like a bum out. I felt like we wasted a momentum run for him that he definitely had going, and I guess I question why we did it in the first place. The Lumberjacks, this is where I'm really going to dig in. I got a problem with the Lumberjacks. So a couple of things. Dustin Rhodes saw his brother get punched directly in the mouth by some of the Lumberjacks and then was just like, come on, man. And I was like, wait a second. Like, that's not – isn't he supposed to defend his brother in that? So that was a miss for me from a veteran, which was, like, surprising. Much respect, Dustin. You're the man. I just thought that was confusing. I expected you to, like – whip some ass in that situation, and that
at least shove them, right?
Yeah,
like get in their face or something.
Or I don't know. But going on that note, the Lumberjacks then, like Evil Uno and those guys, what was confusing to me was Cody, when he came out of the ring, would try to quickly get back in the ring, but the Lumberjacks were also quickly trying to throw him back in the ring. So if you guys both want the same thing, there's nothing scary. You guys, like, you're on the same team at that point because you're trying to get to the same place. Cody comes out and you go, want to go back in? We'll help you go back in. So it was like they need Lumberjack training 101, I think. But they don't do that match often. But to me, that was like they should have been like holding his feet and like pulling them back while he's like trying to claw to get in. It was just kind of awkward.
Makes sense.
So overall, your takeaway, I mean, it's a delete for you, eh?
Yeah.
Yeah. I think that it's going to be a delete for me too. I think that I think that this whole thing is very convoluted. One, obviously, before I get into why I think that, I will say I'll piggyback off of Zepp. The timing of this whole scenario with Orange Cassidy could not be worse. I mean, it was they just had a star-making feud between him and Jericho, and really, he was destroyed by Brody Lee, and then he came up short. I mean, I know that the announce team did emphasize that if the match last week was 1 second longer, Cassidy would be the TNT champion. So I get that, right?
Who's Brody Lee, by the way? We'll get into that later.
Oh, gosh.
Right. Again, yeah. But the big picture here is just like, for me, Orange Cassidy now has had 3 shots at the TNT title, and he's lost all 3 of them. You can put all sorts of different things around it. Obviously, this one, yes, Silver and Arn Anderson played a role in him losing, so it wasn't a straight-up loss. Just like his loss against Brody Lee was not just a straight-up loss. The Dark Order played a role in that matchup too. So you could certainly say, oh, well, Orange Cassidy has something to lean on there. But the best friends got involved before anybody else in this match. They attacked Cody, right? They dropped him when he fell on him, and then Trent hit him, right? So I don't think this really helped him. I also am very just confused on where the motivation. We talked about how much we like when characters have clear motivations, like Kingston, for example. This one, I just don't understand, right? The Dark Order, if I'm in the Dark Order and I'm ringside, I'm not mad at Orange Cassidy. I'm mad at Cody. He's the one who took my leader out, right? Cody is the one who beat Brody Lee down in a brutal dog collar match, right? Left him bloody and took his title from him.
Good point.
And John Silver's attacking Orange Cassidy back-to-back weeks. There's no – you would think that the Dark Order would be like, especially with Brody still out, right, that the Dark Order's focus would be on trying to get revenge on Cody. right? He's the one who defeated their leader, right? The Exalted One. He's the one who sent him away. I don't understand it. I don't. There's the character motivations there make no sense to me.
I can help you here. I think I can help you with this one. I think they're going to tie it into Brody wanting to run it for a rubber match, right? Like for the third match, same set, same scenario, same title on the line. This is how they do it in like combat sports, is when it goes 1-to-1, the fighter doesn't want to change the weight. The fighter wants the same belt on the line. They want it to be the same exact scenario with the same exact people for the same exact title. So maybe they're going for something like that.
I get it. So they're trying to like keep the title on Cody.
So
that Brody could come back and get his revenge.
That's my best guess.
That makes sense. And I also tried to like justify it in my head too, because I watched Being the Elite and I know that John Silver and Alex Reynolds have sort of a long-standing feud with Orange Cassidy on Being the Elite. So I'm thinking maybe that I was trying to justify it in my head. But it just wasn't working for me, guys. And I thought that the match itself. It's funny that you highlighted, Sean. You highlighted that suplex spot as your highlight of the night. I wrote down in my column. I'm complete. I thought it was a dud. You saw all these guys standing there outside waiting. It felt like 30 seconds. It felt like forever. Just standing there waiting for the suplex to happen. I don't know. The match itself got confusing, and I felt like they overbooked this one. And AEW doesn't typically do that, right? I feel like AEW has done a nice job of staying away from the distraction roll-up finishes or the DQs and all that stuff. This one just was not my cup of tea, and I was not overly impressed.
That's a good point. The more I'm thinking about it and hearing you say it, the overbooking was a little confused and a lot got lost in transition. And Brody Lee, back to him, he is too big of a star, too big of a name, too strong of a wrestler to be off TV this long. There's got to be something, I hope, in the works for him big.
Before we get into the next, because I was going to say, speaking of things that fell flat and were confusing, and I was going to get into the Miro and Kip promo, but before we get into that, why don't we spend a second here, guys? This is going to be our only opportunity to talk about Brody because we didn't see him the rest of the night, right? So what's going on with Brody Lee? What's your take on where the Exalted One is? Where does he show up at Full Gear? What are you guys hoping for if you were booking this? How would you take Brody Lee's absence, and how would you make it a worthwhile thing that we could pay off?
I don't agree with his absence. It's just same with Lance Archer. It's just like this unannounced loss, and then you're just like tucking your tail between your legs and going away.
Now, thankfully, Archer has jumped in, right?
Right, true, on Dark and stuff.
We saw him tonight in the crowd, right? We saw Kingston reference him earlier on with a little wink about how he never lost the Battle Royal. That was a good little thing by Kingston there. But we saw Archer dominate on Dark, and he cut. I know that Archer's not known for promos. He's known for just dominating people, right?
True.
But Archer cut a great promo about coming for people and the massacre that's going to come when people have no idea the bloodbath that he's going to leave in the wake once he gets back on track. So at least we got to see a little bit of that. But Brody's just been completely off TV, right?
Yeah.
I hope there's something bigger for him. I didn't really think about it, but I agree with you, Nate. The whole grudge match, 1 for 1, eye for an eye, something big. Maybe they do like a steel cage or something. Cody's known for doing big matches, original matches, things like that. So obviously, I think Cody beats Darby Allin. You might see either Ricky Starks kind of lurking in the back, maybe interfere, or you get Brody Lee, involved or something like that. So that would be smart for another strong build and another continuous storyline to push for a post Full Gear stories.
The crazy thing is to appease all of us, all they had to do was have Brody Lee out there as a lumberjack, just staring at Cody the whole time. Like they followed his order, and then Cody was like, "What just happened?" And Brody's just looking at him. Done. Not a word said. nothing, right? Just the presence of him there would have been like, oh, he orchestrated this. But because he wasn't there, we didn't know what was happening.
Yeah. I mean, the Dark Order, they're operating without the leader, but they're not acting as if they miss him at all, right? It just, there's no, like, he was the guy who kind of brought these group of losers together to focus on a singular mission. And his presence should be a greater miss for the Dark Order than what's been presented thus far.
Right.
I get like they're leaning heavily into the comedic aspects of John Silver, and he's hilarious, right? John Silver's great, but
a pumpkin.
but we need some more Brody on TV. I think that he's sorely missed just because his presence as a big man is unique compared to other big guys in the company. He is he's just a little bit more polished than a Brian Cage in presentation. He's better on the mic than, even though I like Archer a lot, he's a little bit better on the mic than Archer. Brody's got he's the whole package. It's not a coincidence that the guy served as many years as he did on the big stage. He's not, no stage is too big for Brody, and I think that they need him. So
he's amazing.
That said, I was going to transition into the next I really, Orange Cassidy. We talked a little bit about the best friends and how they got involved in that match. But there's really no good way to segue into this backstage segment, guys. Before I even throw it to you, SPD, Kip Sabian and Miro. Wow.
Oh, dude, he's got that pencil thin stash that would have given
this
you
is the guy. This is the guy that they have paired up with Miro, who was probably the hottest free agent that AEW has signed in the last six to 8 months, right? I mean, I cannot believe that on a professional wrestling program, and this is what AEW is getting themselves in trouble for, guys. This is why they have so many critics. On a professional wrestling program, there is this feud built around a video game. SPD.
You can't. We're huge fans, and we can't defend this.
There's nothing I can say. No. There's nothing I can say. I mean, I love seeing, and I know you guys do too, I love seeing Miro beat people up, show increased intensity. Really, he looks better than he ever has. The guy looks phenomenal. But there's no defending it. I appreciated what they were trying to do as far as they mentioned how this was the video game console thing was a gift that Miro gave Sabian as a wedding present, and it had sentimental value or whatever. But like, you're putting lipstick on a pig. At this point, like, this is talk about, we were worried about Darby losing momentum. Miro is tail spinning, guys, with no real solution in sight unless he like snaps and beats the hell out of Sabian. I don't know. How do you salvage Miro from this point? Like, next week he's going against Trent, right? We're going to see Miro and Trent put on a clinic because Trent is clearly the better half of the best friends as far as in-ring work goes. And that guy is one of the more underrated workers in the AEW. They're going to go at it. It's going to be a great match inside the ring. But like, how do you salvage Miro at this point? Because I know I'm not alone. This is getting bad.
I don't want to jump the gun here. He has to eat Kip Sabian, physically eat him to his bones. He has to eat him, every piece of fucking skin, flesh, everything. Just eat him on live TV and
then barbecue sauce.
And then walk out with Penelope, fade to black. That's the only way to fix this.
Man, this is I'm a loss for words because not even talking about next week. Miro should have been facing Chucky T and squashed Chucky T. And Trent should have squashed Kip, and then that way you kind of have this like cross build of like 1 versus 1. Miro was my top performer 2 weeks ago because of his in-ring stuff, but all this is that
delete.
Delete for me.
Everything
too.
else, man.
I mean, this is a huge
Unanimously delete. Let's move on.
Yeah, let's not spend any more time on it because I don't want to be negative. There's plenty of people out there who are willing to be negative about the AEW product. I don't want
We
to be
love
that
Miro,
person.
period. Let's move on. It's
We
a bad
want it
booking.
to turn around. Yeah.
Let's hope, right? No character is beyond salvaging,
Right.
but they're not doing him any favors right now. And if this is his creative direction for his character, I have serious concerns about the longevity of this kind of performer. I worry about it. But that said, on to bigger and better things. Let's talk about somebody whose star is on the rise, Serena Deeb. Now, I know that we've talked about Serena in the past. She was kind of featured as a good hand in previous Dynamite episodes. Really, I always kind of was looking at Serena as somebody who's really proven as a veteran presence. She is one of those people who knows how to do the little things right. I'm a big fan. I'm genuinely surprised that she walked in as the NWA champion. She did cut a little backstage promo that highlighted the respect of the NWA title, and it wasn't anything that will convince people that Serena Deeb is like a superstar or larger than life star. It was kind of it was ho hum. She talked a little bit about the respect of the legacy of the NWA title and things like that. But it was a really good feel good moment for somebody who has kind of always been cast aside as a good in ring performer, but never good enough to be put over. And I think that this was a really great opportunity for us to see what she's capable of. What was your takeaway from this match, SPD? Is this one going to get an elite or delete from you? I know you're a huge women's wrestling fan. Was Serena Deeb able to get an elite out of you?
So the match itself actually was pretty entertaining. Once again, it falls to the fact of the whole commercial break losing momentum, in my opinion. That's the hardest part. There was not as much sloppiness that I'm used to seeing in the women's division. It was a smooth match, polished match. That being said, this one is not going to be the one that changes me.
Damn it!
I knew it.
But it was a teetering. For what it's worth, it had my attention most of the time, and
that speaks volumes already.
And I'm excited to see more of her. The whole title, the NWA, like I have really mixed emotions about cross promotion titles in AEW. We'll talk about it later with Kenny showing the belt and then the NWA. I don't know. I just have mixed feelings about that. But anyways, it's a delete for me.
Zepp, what about you, man?
Yeah, you can leave it up, man. Delete for me. The promo was one I don't want to rag on people, but this promo did her no favors. I'm actually really surprised they aired this because just without it was better than with it by such a large margin. I don't know. The pausing. I know she hopped on a plane and traveled on really short notice, and I feel like then all of a sudden she's got to cut a promo without really maybe putting a ton of thought into it, on the fly, and it just was I don't know. The pauses seemed a little unnatural, and once she's in the ring, I think she's an awesome worker, in great shape. I know she's had a long journey to this moment. So once she's in the ring, I think she's awesome, and I'm glad to see her there. But overall, delete for me just because it started as kind of this, I don't know. It missed for me. I'm not going to sugarcoat it. It just missed for me.
I hear you. I want to give the benefit of the doubt. I want to root for her because you do know her journey. It wasn't easy for her to get here, and she clearly has put in the work. That promo, I think you would have been right, Nate. They would have benefited from editing that out. There really was. I mean, I understand needing to introduce her as the newly crowned NWA Women's Champion, but it just was. It was a very awkward promo.
That's
And
one you expect to take two on, basically, right?
Yeah.
We've done it here before. We did it earlier today, to be
Yeah,
honest.
it happens, guys. It happens, right? No, and sometimes you're just not on your game, and I get that. But where Serena Deeb shines is in the ring, and
Big time.
She's incredibly polished in the ring. I think it's noteworthy that SPD highlighted that this match felt smooth, that there weren't those awkward pauses, and I think that that's where Serena really is unique. She's one of the few that I think, like, especially in today's day and age where everybody's sort of trying to do these huge spot fests and like chain wrestling and all this fancy stuff. Serena does a really great job of making the match flow well. When she's transitioning between moves, whether like she's waiting for an opponent to come do a move to her, it doesn't feel awkward. It doesn't feel like she's waiting for things to happen. She has a nice feel for the business. And I think that is a real testimony to her, and it's understanding why she's been selected to be a coach for other people before in their careers, because she knows the ins and outs. She emotes really well in the ring. I feel like Serena is one of the better actual in-ring performers that AEW's showcased in the women's division thus far. That said, it's really hard to give a segment an elite when there's such a lacking portion when it comes to the personality side. Leila Hirsch, I didn't know anything about her going into this matchup, so there were a lot of people who were kind of mocking her online because she is quite short. So I did go back and I looked at some stuff. I watched some of her matches going before the Dynamite tonight just to kind of get a feel for her. She does a lot of intergender wrestling. And, she comes from Russia, and she does have like sort of a badass vibe to her. And I think that those two worked really well together in the ring. It's a testimony to like their ability to be technical and to work well off of each other. But the overall presentation of this match, I didn't realize how short Leila looked. It's unfortunate. You have two performers that just have two big handicaps that are going to have a hard time getting over the hump, with Serena's struggles on the mic and Leila's just physical, like, it's just a shame, right? She's a tank, but she's just short, and it's hard to believe somebody like is going to be a Dynamite star when they don't reach the top rope. So it's a delete for me too, man. It's a shame. I don't like giving deletes like that, but it's a delete all across the board, clean sweep.
Well, Mike, I have an elite for you. I just want to let you know. You said that she emotes well in the ring.
Yeah.
Sean, put an elite up for Mike.
All right.
Something I got to talk about here. I didn't know what emotes meant, so I looked it up over here. So for our Dynamite download fans, emote, verb, to portray emotion in a theatrical manner. Big word, Crayfish over here, dropping knowledge on us and teaching us things along the way. Elite for you, good sir.
Thank you. I appreciate that. I'm glad to be able to drop some knowledge, and please use that going forward. It's a good word. It's a great word.
I like it.
That said, guys, the personality struggles of the women's division, and this is why I love Britt Baker so much, but the personality struggles of the women's division only continued when we got to see Shida's backstage promo. I can't imagine that this one was a home run for any of you guys, other than the mere fact that we are going to be guaranteed Nyla Rose against Shida again at Full Gear. That matchup is going to be hard hitting. We've seen those two go head to head before. It did not fall short. That matchup proved to really test Shida's limits, and Shida was able to showcase her striking ability against somebody who is bigger and stronger and can take some of her more hard-hitting offense. So I'm really excited about what we're going to see at Full Gear. That said, the promo from Shida was more of the same, unfortunately. I don't know if you guys want to comment on anything like that beyond what I had to say there, but
I don't have much. I just will say, like, overall, I don't know that I can ever remember like someone cutting a promo like in their like secondary or like third language and it being well received. I think that's hard as hell to do, right? With
That's
conviction.
true.
So it's kind of like, in my opinion, setting her up to fail a little bit, giving her that promo spot when like Nyla doesn't even really get a promo, and so it's just a little inverted in my opinion. I'd like her as a silent champion, just kind of actions are her words. But yeah, I mean, I give Sheeta credit for like trying. I just don't think that's the spot where she can really do much more than that. So it's like set up poorly for her.
That's well said. Yeah, I think that's well said. I mean, we wouldn't have the same. We don't necessarily have the same critiques for Thunder Rosa, and that, and she's amazing, right? She's charismatic in the ring and all that stuff. But, yeah, that is fair, right? It's their second or third language, right? So, and being on national television trying to cut a promo, maybe it would have been better having Nyla Rose, right, cutting a promo. She's great on the mic, and she has Vicky too, right? But
yeah.
SPD, you want to dump on the women's division anymore, or can we move on?
We can move on, and that's a good segue to the Shawn Spears match.
Yeah, how so? Go ahead.
I'm a Shawn Spears fan for sure, and I'm all for seeing more of him. And we talked about it last week or the week before about the whole Scorpio Sky Shawn Spears feud potential match, and I think this was fine. It worked well. A little squash, making him look strong, and Scorpio Sky with the surprise. I'm a big fan of Scorpio Sky. Both these guys actually. Like, I love Scorpio's finisher. He's got a great look. His in-ring ability is through the roof, and so I was hoping they would have just booked this for Full Gear, but the card is so packed. So
both of these guys are, like, as far as in shape and their look, both of these guys are what you would consider stars, right? I mean, they're just absolutely chiseled. They're beasts, both incredibly athletic. It's an interesting feud that really hasn't taken place at all on TV. It's all really happened through Dark.
Yeah.
But this was a taste of it, right? We got the hints last. And Zepp, you actually called this, because I thought when Spears was wishing SCU luck in their title match against FTR, I thought it was them sort of planting seeds for Spears joining up with FTR. And you kind of called, like, I think that this is going to be more towards like Shawn Spears and Scorpio Sky having a little thing. You called that. So it's kind of come to fruition. What are your thoughts on next week's matchup between these two? And what were your thoughts on obviously the match itself was a squash. It was over in one move. But how do you feel about that beatdown segment that happened and sort of the segue into next week?
I'm good with it all. I've liked Spears since he was the chairman. If they would have kept him in like the top 10 the whole way, I would have been like a buyer. I mean, I think that chair shot at the beginning, just to back things up, went bad, but you could have milked that forever because he just busted Cody to oblivion. And that doesn't that highlight lives forever. It was shocking. It's shocking now. They should have just kept leaning into it. That said, when I see him squash this guy, I believe him. Like, I believe him as a top tier guy again. So I've always been big on him. When he was rocking Tully on his underpants, I thought that was a little bit of a step in the wrong direction.
Gosh.
That was rough.
But I'm glad to see him squashing again. And Scorpio Sky, I just want to say it's a little interesting that he was dressed as a bull ringside, right? So like, what happens? I'm trying to look at it from a realism perspective. What happens if you're throwing candy in the ring and the guy doesn't come attack you? You're just dressed as a bull.
You're just hanging out the whole show dressed as a bull
weird
with candy. Yeah, that is true.
You made that decision. I'm gonna get him back by dressing like a bull, and I'm gonna stay out there all match, and I'm gonna hit him with candy, and then he's gonna come get me. It just seems pretty far-fetched, but he's super athletic, and once they got in the ring and he became a human again instead of a bull, it was all good.
Well said. That's funny. And when you do apply the logic to it, sometimes wrestling can come unraveled that way.
Really quickly, right? Yeah.
Yeah. Mastermind, though. Total mastermind. I'll say, like, I was there when Cody went up against Shawn Spears in Chicago, and Shawn Spears killed it on his entrance. Like, his theme song is awesome. I loved his contact. I mean, the guy put those contact lenses in sometimes, and those look sick. I think that, like, honest to God, Sean Spears, like you said, I think that dude, there's no reason why he shouldn't be more of a recognizable name. I think every time that they've given him a chance, he delivered in the Cody feud. If you go back and watch some of those promos where he cut with JR, his intensity about being sort of cast aside as a good hand and stuff like that, like, dude, the guy is delivered, and he's put in the work. He looks like a total beast. I mean, those of us who have followed his career, he's never looked this impressive before. He's got a good gimmick going on. I like it. And then on the opposite side, SPD, I know that you're not the biggest SCU fan, but you've been clamoring for Scorpio Sky to get a little bit more separation from those guys and to get a little bit more like ring time as a solo artist. So I think that these two going against each other is going to showcase what both of them are capable of. They both are great athletes. They're both pros. They've both been around for a long time. I think they're going to put on a great match next week. I'm excited about it. I don't know where it goes from there afterwards. I'd certainly like to see those guys more on TV, but man, there's only so much TV time. It's crazy.
I know.
That said, the main event was able to be showcased on TV, and we got to really see a guy in Penta who, again, kind of hasn't had that much TV time himself as far as being featured. I've talked to you a little bit about that. This was really an awesome opportunity for the world to see what Penta is capable of, going head-to-head against somebody like Kenny Omega, who is universally regarded as one of the best in the absolute world. This match was just – it's hard to choose what was the match of the night. This one was absolutely brutal. These guys went at it. You could tell there was some physicality to it, and I really liked the personality that Kenny brought to the match. To me, it was a continuation of what we've been seeing. He's leaning into the cleaner gimmick more and more, and I think we're starting to see that ego coming out that was always kind of hidden over the last first year of AEW. SPD, give us your first thoughts on this, because I know that you were anticipating this all week. You were so excited. I know that you were probably counting down the moments to see the chop fest.
Yeah.
And they definitely delivered on some of those chops. Those were unbelievable. What were your thoughts on the match, man?
Oh, I'm a huge chop fan. Delivered some and taken some from all of y'all. So the entrance is a 10 out of 10, and I hope they just keep turning up that entrance. It is so great. I can't wait till Kenny gets a broom in his hand and starts sweeping his way to the ring. So it's awesome when they put the luchador mask on the
was a cool touch.
The cleaners.
They crossed the brooms, right? They crossed the brooms for him to go underneath them.
Yep, that was cool.
I didn't even notice that. But the match was a 10 out of 10. This was fantastic. And when the chops came, I was cringing of the pain. I asked you before, I was like, who would you rather have a chop from, Penta L0M or the Big Show? And honestly, I would rather have one from the Big Show, because Penta gives the cleanest chops and the loudest chops. Oh my gosh.
This picture is funny moment.
Yeah. But overall, the match, it was nice to see a longer match with Kenny, with the new Kenny here in AEW.
He was pushed a little bit in this match, right?
And Penta looked extremely strong, as always. I think I've talked about it before, the Lucha Brothers are the best tag in the world. And solo, those guys are amazing. So this was a pay-per-view quality match to me, the right match to end the show, and definitely an elite, home run elite, in my opinion.
Yeah,
I think we're gonna have a clean sweep on this one.
Oh, this is an elite for me, big time.
Yeah.
For me, I like Pentagon going into the tournament. Now he lost twice, and I like him more, which goes to show you how badass he is. He lost twice in a row, and I like the guy more. And it's like, that, how do you do that? I don't know anyone else that's ever done that.
That's true.
That's so well said, man. We were talking about it before the podcast about who our performers of the night were going to be.
Yeah.
And I was torn. Penta showed out tonight. And I'm with you, man. I think that's a really good point by you, that he somehow lost 2 matches in a tournament, but he looks phenomenal coming out of it, right?
Omega looks crazy too. I mean, like you guys said, just to iterate on a couple of your points, I'm not a fan of the different belts coming in, because now we have three outsiders, right? With 2 hours of TV, and then you have 3 belts coming in with like Thunder Rosa's, was Thunder Rosa's, and now is Serena's NWA belt, the FTW strap, and then this one tonight. I mean, it's relevant, I guess, to the storylines sometimes, but I think I like having AEW belts be like prestigious, and that's all you see, and it makes them mean more. Just a personal taste thing.
Yeah, I get what you're saying. I think that, like, you know, with this matchup in particular, I think Kenny, like, it played into the story, right?
Yeah.
Like, it was kind of like him rubbing salt into the wound of the Lucha Bros, kind of reminding them that he's beat them before and he'll beat them again. Because he did get that title off of Phoenix. So I thought that was, you know, again, and that leans into Kenny being more and more of like
egotistic.
Buying into his own hype, being a little bit more egotistical. You know, so I liked that. I do get what you're saying, though. I mean, like, we're starting to see, you know, a little bit too much of that outside like influence being impacting AEW television.
Yeah.
Especially when we think about, like, Joey Janela was off last week's show because of COVID-related reasons on another, like, independent program that he was on, right? So just AEW needs to be a little careful with I respect what they're doing as far as allowing their wrestlers to travel the world and make a good living for themselves and to build their own name. But there does come a point when you do need to recognize, like, there are certain guys who are your stars and you need to bank on them, right? And Kenny is AEW, right? There's no denying that. This match was probably for me, I was most excited about this one just because I knew what they're capable of. I obviously was really geeked about Wardlow versus Hangman because I've been on the Wardlow train. I think that those two were, like, they brought it to each other. That one did not disappoint. But I know what these two guys were capable of, and I knew it was going to be a great match, and it delivered. I mean, it was absolutely phenomenal. Truly, like, I want to see it again. I want to see these guys fight again. I don't know what else to say. I want to see Omega and Penta. I want to see Omega versus Phoenix. And then because we didn't get – that's the crazy thing too, is, like, this match is so much different than what Omega versus Phoenix would have been, and, like, how that would have been booked, how that would have played out from a physicality standpoint, right? Like, Kenny going up against Phoenix would have been far more, like, I think, a little faster paced, right? Would have been way different stylistically, but it was absolutely brutal. Some of the moves that these guys pulled off on each other, the cradle pile driver that Penta dropped on Kenny was brutal. I know, Sean, you always worry about those pile drivers. That one was absolutely brutal. And I thought Kenny's V triggers tonight all of them looked like they killed Penta. I mean, like, the one where Penta was on his knees leaning into the ropes.
Yeah.
And Kenny, like, hit it. I was just like, holy shit. Like,
the Canadian Destroyer on the outside too, with that, like, the pile drivers in the Destroyer tonight had me, like, not on my kind of cringing. Like, I was marking out that oh man, Omega's about to be, like, on the shelf.
Yeah. And I think that, like, one of the things that happens, right, is, like, you know, AEW is known for a lot of their guys doing a lot of crazy spots that sometimes are overkill, right? Like, you're going to forget about that spot a week from now. I know that there's a lot of critics out there that put AEW down for that, because a lot of these guys do, like, the Canadian Destroyer, like, it's just a DDT, right? Like, they do all these, like, but to me, this match featured a lot of stuff that I will remember, and I want to see more of. I want to see these guys back in the ring together. Their chemistry was phenomenal. It really showcased what Penta is capable of, and I think allowing him to push Kenny to that limit, from a pure physicality standpoint. I mean, Penta's brutal. And that's what I tried to emphasize last week. And we pushed it on social media this week. And Penta actually, he shared that was Penta's offense does not get recognized for how targeted and brutal it can be. The guy is smart. Like, he's cerebral in the ring. The guy is focused. His offense is no wasted motion. He's not one of these guys that, like, his stuff looks like it hurts. And that, I love that. I love that about him. And that was really one of the reasons why I was so conflicted. I wanted to give Penta my star of the night. Guys, who was your performer of the evening? Who stole the show in your eyes?
I mean, hands down, Kenny Omega.
Yeah.
Do we need to say more? I mean, he just, from top to bottom, entrance to the match to the finish.
His character work, right?
The character work to the picture-in-picture. The stuff I was watching picture-in-picture. They were battling on the outside and some brutal, outside ring stuff that wasn't even aired on TV. We missed it all, but you can see it in picture-in-picture and just see how brutal it was. And
I was torn.
I'm a huge fan of him.
Yeah. I was torn between Penta and Omega, and I ultimately had to give it to Omega because he won the match. And so I kind of gave him the nod. But both guys showed out. I could have put Wardlow in there too. I thought Wardlow, again, showed up really well tonight. And for a guy who doesn't get a lot of singles competition rub, he certainly was somebody who I thought performed very well in this tournament and came out looking better. And his character work was great too, right? I mean, let's admit, I agree. Wardlow showed some nuance with how he handled the MJF segment early on in the show. But to me, Omega is becoming what we all have wanted him to become. He is clearly establishing himself as on another tier, and the character work that he's putting in, the way that match played out, it was just incredible, and I can't wait for Full Gear. Omega versus Hangman is going to be awesome. It's going to be the culmination of incredible storyline work that AEW's put forward, the falling out of friends, and their in-ring work is going to definitely deliver. That said, Zepp, I know that SPD had to go scavenging the internet to try to find a picture for your top performer of the night. Give us your rundown and why is Reba the performer of the evening for you?
Omega is a great pick, guys, no doubt about it. I thought about picking Kenny, and then my gut feeling was go with Penta because he lost 2 in a row, and I felt like he was better than he was when he entered it. So I was like, all right, I'm going to go with Pentagon. And then I realized something happened. I was watching with my wife, and we were both belly laughing at the segment during the town hall when Reba was gushing over Chris Jericho to the point where Britt Baker was like, stop being weird. And it was it was funny. We were my wife's just a casual watch in passing, but she engaged with the product and was laughing. We were laughing together. So I really enjoyed that. And then I realized, as successful as Britt has been becoming the face of the women's division, Reba's been her accent piece.
Yep.
And I think it goes understated. And I don't know that there'd be a better opportunity to be you did great tonight than tonight. So I went with her.
No, I respect that. For somebody who's always kind of a side character, right? I think that it is worth noting. Reba has, and again, I love Britt. We here at Dynamite Download think that she's the real deal, but her comedy would not be the same if it wasn't for her sidekick. And I think that that segment, it was again, the town hall was hit or miss with you guys.
Yeah.
But that question and answer that Reba and Britt did there was awesome, and I do think that was genuinely funny. I really do.
Have you ever seen someone fangirl over someone on live TV in a funnier way? I put her as the best fangirl I've seen, demonstration wise. So that's why I thought it was so highly regarded on my end.
It was really funny, and you could tell Jericho even kind of was kind of like he didn't know how to react. It was funny. Let's get into next week because I know next week's going to have a whole stacked up. This is going to be the go-home show to Full Gear, guys. So there's certainly a lot for us to look forward to. SPD, let's throw that card up here, brother.
A lot going on next week.
Yeah. So actually, I think it's supposed to be Sammy and Ortiz versus.
Is it Sammy? I thought he said Santana.
No.
Sammy, I think.
Okay.
It's Sammy. So Sammy and Ortiz are going to go against MJF and Wardlow. And that's really because Santana is kind of on the fence on whether or not MJF should be in the inner circle. Sammy and Ortiz are dead set that MJF will not make it to Full Gear and won't even get to that matchup. That one's going to be a great match. I do anticipate the Ward Dog playing a role in some way, shape, or form, helping MJF get over in that one, but we'll see. That's going to be an awesome match. Miro versus Trent, we talked about that one. I think that Trent being the workhorse of the best friends and secretly one of the better workers in AEW, I think we're going to actually get a great matchup and finally going to be a test for Miro a little bit. I think we're going to finally see Miro have to actually go to war with somebody in the ring. I look forward to that. Guys, and then Shawn Spears versus Scorpio Sky. We talked about that one. We're finally going to see those guys on TV and get a showcase spot on the Dynamite, which will be really great to see. The most interesting from a Full Gear perspective, we're going to finally see Jon Moxley and Eddie Kingston face-to-face. But we also kind of have Cody and the Gun Club versus Dark Order. I know that the Gun Club kind of caught Cody's eye at the end of their matchup when there was the pull-apart brawl between the Lumberjacks. But certainly an interesting and odd pairing, kind of out of nowhere. Really quick, guys, what matchup are you guys most intrigued by going into next week? Do you have anybody who's going to be like going into next week? Do you have anybody who you think might be your top performer?
I'm really interested in to see what if anything, like I said earlier, happens with the Wardlow MJF. So, Wardlow 3 weeks in a row on TV, I'm excited for. So I hope he comes out with another strong performance and he hints at more of him in the future. So that's what I'm excited for.
Yeah, I want to see how much Sammy and Ortiz soften up MJF for the match with Jericho with those inner circle stipulations on the line. I think that would be a whole nother layer, right? It is MJF's half of an MJF going into that match or something. I don't know. It could get interesting to see how badly they beat him up and if Santana doesn't want to join them in beating him up because he gestured like thanks man about the jacket, so maybe he's cool with MJF, which could cause some friction in and of itself. So they got some options here.
Yeah, I think that they're just the way that whole feud is playing out has a lot of people intrigued. There's a lot of ambiguity there. There's a lot of questions and a lot of excitement about how that could go down. I'm a big Ortiz guy. I think he's hilarious, and I'm a Sammy fan. I've thought Sammy has got star power from he's going places. So that matchup in and of itself is going to be exciting. I'm looking forward to that. I also think that personally, I'm excited to see Shawn Spears and Scorpio Sky. I think that's going to be kind of a neither one is a main event type of guy on AEW right now. Neither one has been promoted in that way, but I do think that could be kind of a dark horse candidate to be the best match of the night. I think those two guys can both work. They're both pros. Really, I think that one's going to be exciting. So I'm looking forward to it. I think obviously Eddie Kingston and Jon Moxley going face-to-face is going to be worth watching. We're going to see some fireworks next week, guys. So until next time, guys, please click that subscribe button. We really love getting feedback from you guys. If you're not following us on Twitter, we are interacting with everybody. We are loving the fan interaction. We're loving the wrestler interaction. We've gotten a lot of love on Instagram too from some of our performers in AEW. And so, guys, if you're not following what we're doing on Instagram, you're missing out. Newly added, we got Dynamite Download group on Facebook for those of you guys who really want to have a different forum for chatting. Facebook does provide an outlet for us to have a little bit more elaborate conversations with you as a fan. So please get engaged and join that group. And as always, please visit us at dynamitedownload.com. That's where you're going to find my write-up. I'm going to have that posted at 1 o'clock tomorrow at Eastern time. And I promise you there's going to be a lot of stuff on that column that you didn't hear in this podcast. Just my personal thoughts, me spitballing, independent of what SPD and Zepp had to say. You're going to hear a lot from the mastermind, the teacher, as Zepp pointed out earlier. You're going to hear all sorts of good big words that you can take with you going into the next week. So until next week, fellas, we have a big show next week. Maybe we do a little special Full Gear episode.
Yeah, I think we should do a Full Gear preview.
Yeah,
TBD.
maybe we do that. So thanks everybody for tuning in. We look forward to talking to you next week. As always, we're out.